What does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen, and I'm gonna show you and him.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
Fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025 reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
And chaos broke out at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul showdown, turning what was supposed to be routine hype into a full-blown confrontation. Davis snapped during questions about why he chose to fight Paul instead of higher-ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Paul pounced on personal controversies and mocked Davis's background, escalating tension until moderators intervened. "I'm going to outbox." And truly, when people run back this press conference, all the talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What you say, Tank? He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo. The one thing when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global for you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy? Yeah.
It's actually like, now that I looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably this was a good thing. From the outset, the exchange was far from cordial. Paul, standing at 6'1" in, loomed over Davis's 5'5" in frame, a visual manifestation of the size disparity between the two that has dominated pre-fight discussion. Paul used the height and reach gap as promotional fodder, openly suggesting he would keep Davis at bay with his superior length and size. Meanwhile, Davis, champion at lightweight and accustomed to shorter opponents, leaned into his famed speed, promising to make the size difference irrelevant once the action got hot. One of the key flashpoints was the sheer size difference between the fighters. Many observers, including prominent media voices, labeled the matchup unfair or even a clown show before it started. Davis, a decorated lightweight champion undefeated going in, is being matched against a social media-turned-boxer who naturally competes at much higher weights. The bout is designated as an exhibition, not a traditional professional title fight, which in itself feeds into the legitimacy debate. Paul won the fight, but yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experienced extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'12", Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continue to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch, they fought back in March. It's no secret that Paul thrives on theatricality and provocation, and the press conference was built to generate viral moments. The clown gag, the pushing, the legal allegation jabs. Each piece contributed to an atmosphere more akin to a reality show confrontation than a traditional boxing press event. Reports described the presser as sound and fury, signifying nothing, offering more spectacle than substance. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight and okay, that's a real fighter, or that's a real fighter, and he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever. But Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, "Oh, that's crazy. What are you doing?" Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk. But a lot of people were like, "Okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him? He's a psycho, but fair play." And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years. So it's a weird spot to be in for him, for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake, Nikisa Badarian, and Jake's manager was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it. Keith Thurman pointed out a sharp irony and how critics of Gervonta Davis actually help him, and he's not wrong. These same people who constantly trash Davis's performances are also the ones who never miss his fights. They claim his boxing isn't up to scratch, yet they tune in each time he steps in the ring. Thurman argues that by devoting their attention, even negative attention, they're giving Davis more visibility and relevance. Their complaints fuel his popularity, effectively making them inadvertent supporters. In short, the more they try to bring him down, the more they elevate his name. If you're really not happy with Tank, first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paulie Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What does it say? For entertainment purposes only, right? It should say somewhere in the small print of the promotion, for entertainment. Don't do this at home, kids. You know what I'm saying? Disclaimer. Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only, So, it's money-making purposes only, It is what it is, people. Stephen A. Smith expressed strong disapproval for the trending mismatched exhibition bouts, including Paul versus Mike Tyson, saying Paul was saddened and even disgusted, calling out the mismatch more bluntly. He emphasized the need for Paul to get in the ring with real competition, not former athletes or stars past their prime. Despite his criticisms, Stephen A. did acknowledge Paul's promotional flair and the attention he brings to the sport.
But he made clear that building credibility requires facing legitimate contemporary boxing talent. Smith has also delivered a sharp response following the controversial majority draw between Davis and Lamont Roach in March. He emphasized the weight of Davis's impressive record and dismissed any suggestion that criticism was warranted. In his view, Davis had demonstrated true championship poise by refusing to waver under doubt or dispute.